Hey, what up, everybody? My name is Jerome, and I'm here today to discuss my favorite sport, boxing, then football. But today we're going to talk about boxing. We're going to talk about some upcoming events, and I just feel like I see a lot of cool videos with people talking about boxing and a lot of videos where they express themselves about future fights and some of the things that's going on in boxing. So I just felt like if I did a video and share my thoughts as well, that someone may receive it just as well as I receive their videos, because I just think it's kind of cool that we can share views and share opinions on a sport that is so competitive as boxing. So, with that being said, I just want to talk about a future fight that I am waiting to see. I just cannot wait to see this fight. Shawn Porter versus Danny Garcia. Let me start by saying this. I like Shawn Porter. I like the way he carries himself in public. I like the way he presents himself. I like the way he speaks. I love his integrity when it comes to promoting the fight and when it comes to not being distasteful in the press conferences. I like that about Shawn. I think, as his father, Kenny Porter being his father, I think that, he did an excellent job with that. Um, the same about his opponent. I think Danny Garcia is very integral. I think Danny Garcia is very humble. I think Angel Garcia also did a great job with Danny Garcia because the boxing needs to be tasteful. I think there's so much in these conferences, and it get very combative. I know it's a combative sport, but sometimes they go back and forth and they compromise the integrity of the sport with some of the things that they say. Sometimes it's just too ratchet at times. Um, Moving forward and getting into the fight. With all that being said, I think that skill wise, I think that Shawn Porter will be outmatched against Danny Garcia. And let me say this respectfully. I uh, I love both fighters. I love their contribution to the sport. But let me say that Shawn Porter is better off as an MMA fighter. I don't see any skill in Shawn Porter. I don't see any technique. Shawn Porter jumps in, he launches in, and he throws elbows, he throws headbutts, and he has a way. It's not. He has a caveman style of fighting, and they can call it unorthodox. It's not necessarily unorthodox. It just looks unprofessional. It doesn't even look like it should be allowed in boxing. I think that he's going to leap in. He's going to launch forward at Danny Garcia, and he's going to walk into one of them punches that Danny Garcia caught Amir Khan with. Same punch he caught Bam Bam with Brandon Rios. I think he's going to jump right in and get caught with something. I think that also Kenny Porter will be out coached. I think Angel Garcia is a much better coach. I think Angel Garcia is a little bit more focused and in tune with what's going on with Danny. I honestly believe that they're somewhat Shawn Porter in his camp is somewhat delusional. I think they have a false perception of where Shawn fits in the welterweight division. I think that it's just a matter of time he's going to be knocked out. And if he somehow pulls off a miracle, because that's what it would have to be, a miracle to beat Danny Garcia, he's going to be what's waiting behind door number 2 and 3 for him. Considering door number 2 is Errol Spence and door number 3 is Terrence Crawford, he's going to be destroyed, annihilated. So he's better off probably going down to 140 or something because he's just not going to be able to survive this. Um, Again, I think Danny Garcia destroys him. I think that he may get knocked out. The only chance I believe that Shawn Porter has is to suffocate Danny by just being busy, because Danny sometimes he can be very complacent. He kind of sits in front of you a little bit, and he takes a while to warm up. But once he warms up, he's coming for you. And I think that maybe their strategy may just be that Danny doesn't get warm. Hopefully, he doesn't get warm. They try to suffocate him with punches, but Danny is a disciplined fighter. And I think that when you get fighters like Shawn Porter, I will say that I pick any disciplined fighter with a skill set over in a punch. Matter of fact, a half of a punch over Shawn Porter. I just think that anytime Shawn Porter goes up against a disciplined fighter, he's going to lose. Until they work on his skill set, because right now it seems like they act as if, well, and it doesn't necessarily have to be true, but it's just true from the way I see it. It's my perception is they think that he's kind of on his way, and that he possessed these tools that makes him an elite fighter, but it's really not. What makes him awkward is that he doesn't follow the science of boxing. He just turns it into a brawl, and he's dependent on luck. In the 12th round against Adrian Broner, he was put on his he was put on his behind. He was close to being stopped. Had the fight went on another round or two, Shawn Porter would have been stopped. And Adrian Broner has no power at 147. Adrian Broner actually is a C- fighter, and he may be a D+. And he's definitely not in the league with Danny Garcia. All right. I like the Eagles. I'm from Philly. So I gave Danny just a little bit edge because of that. But I just don't see it. I just don't see Shawn Porter. I think that Shawn is kind of lying to himself, running around impersonating the champion. It's not going to happen, my man. With that being said, this video is not intended to hate on anyone. It's not intended to cause strife and confusion. The video is not intended to bash Shawn Porter or anything, but it's just the way I see it, man. I just think that Shawn, you should do something else, because the welterweight division, you ain't built for it. You're just not built for it, man. Every time you went up against, you stepped up against an opponent, you lost. Not to mention your resume is just not there. Danny Garcia doesn't look like it. Danny Garcia has an extensive resume. He fought whoever they put in front of him. And not only that, I don't even believe that Shawn believes that if he beats Danny Garcia that he's calling out Errol Spence now and he's calling out Terrence Crawford. I don't believe that they believe that he can actually beat Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, because he can't. I believe that Danny believes in his mind that he can. I believe that Danny really will fight Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. I believe that, just based on his resume and Danny's like just his personality. I just think he's like, hey man, I'm here anyway. It's a blessing to be here, and I'm gonna stay here until somebody take me out. But you got to prove that you can beat me. I think that's his whole thing. I really don't think he really care like that. I really think that he'll fight whoever they put in front of him, and he's not gonna complain about it. He's just gonna say, hey, it is what it is, win, lose, or draw. But I think Shawn Porter and them, they're a little too anxious. They're a little too anxious to be there for whatever reason. I don't know. But my man, the welterweight division, in my opinion, is not for you. I'm out. Until next time, let's talk sports.